What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to build a simple 3D printing queue automation to organize the files that I'm sending to my 3D printer. That's all I want to do. So to start that off, it's very simple. All I want to do is first I want to import OS, and then I'm going to import OS, and then I'm going to check out the files that I want to organize. And these files are going to be saved under a variable called files. There is equal to this. And then I want to run this, and I want to check out just what these files are. There you go. So I have a bunch of these files in some folders of things that I either downloaded or that I designed on Autodesk, and I want to organize the process of sending them to my 3D printer. All right. So that's super simple to do in Python. The ideal goal, so I'm going to be sharing my screen real quick right now. Excalidraw. So the ideal goal is to do something like this. Imagine we have a bunch of files in a folder, right? So files to print, okay? And the automation is going to be essentially about sending these files that I want to print to like a database or like a backlog, right? So we're going to have a backlog. I'm going to call this backlog queue, I guess. And then from this backlog queue, what I would like to do is every time I call some command, so there's going to be some command that's made, right? So some printing command of some sort. Let me just remove this real quick. There you go. So this is going to be the printing command. And then what's going to happen is it's going to print, it's going to print out. So it's going to, on the one hand, print the file that, hopefully the file that was just sent, or it's just going to print the file that's on the top of the backlog queue thing, okay? And then it's going to send a printing command, and it's going to, at the same time, update. Let me just make this pretty. So it's going to update the... it's going to update the queue, all right? So it's going to update that queue, meaning that there's a connection, right, between this and this backlog file. So it's going to be doing this update. Actually, I can put this like this, and then we do this, we delete this, and then we take this, we put it here, and then this, we put it like this. There you go. So it's going to update that queue. And after this thing is printed, it's also going to run the same thing. So it's going to do the same. It's going to do the same update of the queue that we did before. So it's going to be very simple, and hopefully, I want to add as well some things to make my life a little bit easier, so that I can visualize stuff, etc., etc. All right. So how do we do that? Super simple. All we're going to do, well, I'm going to use AI, so it's going to be extra simple, but let's first see. I'm going to start by just prompting cursor with a screenshot of this ideal diagram and a spec description of what I want. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say Control-I, and I'm going to say, I want to build a simple 3D printing queue automation that works nicely in the terminal, where when I call the automation, it will, update a backlog of 3D printing queues, while also giving me options to move things around, to set prints to published, delete items from the queue, and move items from the queue to the printed folder, something like that, right? And I'm gonna send out the diagram. Write me. So let's write the first structure Let's write the first skeleton of this automation in Jupyter Notebook. So let's see what we get with this. All right. So okay, we already got some nice, reorder, update, list. I already like this. Okay, I already like this version of the Q file. So I didn't know cursor doesn't work with Jupyter Notebooks apparently, but that's fine. So a print Q class, automatic scanning of the directory, Q persistence using JSON, basic operations, update the queue with new files, list the files with priorities, move items to printed directory, and reordering priorities. Beautiful. So queue manager. Okay, so this is a great skeleton to start things off. Next steps would be adding a CLI interface, which is what I intend to do, adding more management features, adding settings. Nah, that's not going to happen because I don't want something that, there's no API for the Bamboo Labs 3D printer as far as I checked. So I don't want anything that's that complicated. I don't want to deal with the metadata for the files itself. I just want to handle the file management aspect of it. Okay, so with that, I think that this is pretty good enough as a first spec for this automation. So I'm going to copy it all since cursor doesn't work with Jupyter Notebooks, and I'm going to start in Jupyter Notebook, and then I'm going to move to automation in a script. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to start things off with this. So I'm going to just say this, and then I'm going to say this, 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 this. Okay, so we're moving things up. I'm going to put some stuff here. I'm going to comment this out for now. I'm going to come over here. We're going to say, okay, so the skeleton provides following features. So print class that manages the queue system. So let's start with that. So we're going to start with the print class. So we're going to start with some class print queue. Okay, beautiful. And now we're going to have some functions that we want, right? So update the queue, list the queue. Yeah, beautiful. Move to printed, reorder priority. Okay, beautiful. Rename. So this is moving to printed. And then the printed folder. So this is assuming that the base folder is STL files directory, which is not true. So we're going to move this to update the queue. This is correct because this is the queue file folder. And then rename from there to, and then I'm going to say printed, printed dir, STL printed dir. And then STL printed dir is going to be called, I gotta remember what is the STL files printed. Yeah, STL files printed. Beautiful. So it's this very similar to the previous folder. There we go, but with a small difference. So STL files printed. Beautiful. Okay, so we have these 4 functions: list queue, update, move to printed, reorder priority, tarari-tarara. Printed file name, tarari-tarara. Beautiful. Rename. This is all good. We're not going to be needing this because this is already the correct folder for moving to printed, and then reordering the priority. Okay, beautiful. So I think that the class print queue is already in good shape. So we're going to automatic scan of the print directory to add new files. Yeah, because this is assuming that, I move the file inside of that folder, and that folder becomes like the basis for this queue system. Is that what I want? I'm not sure if that's what I want. I'm not sure if I don't want just like having a CSV or some database of some sort, but I guess we can do that for now. All right. So automatic scanning and then queue persistence using JSON, which is the thing that was in there in the first place. Okay, so automatic scanning of the print directory to add new files. So let's add that. We're deleted from queue, okay? But now I want the automatic scanning to scan for new files. There you go. and then new files, and then return new files. Beautiful. And then save queue in a JSON. All right, whatever. We're gonna save it in a JSON just because I'm lazy to correct cursor right now. So import JSON. Yeah, save the queue, and now queue manager print queue. And now we can say, and now we can actually just check in. Yeah, we can check in, print queue, queue manager, update the queue, then new files. File finds the queue if file not in DSTL printed dir. If in queue, if file not in the printed dir. Is that how I want the scanning for the new files to be? I think I want the scanning for the new files to be what? We compare the queue with the files in the folder. If there's a file in the folder that's not in the queue, that's a new file, right? And that's it. So change it to comparing the queue with the files in the STL files there. If it is not, if the file does not exist there, you update the queue with that new file. That's better than this version. Yeah, so current files, exactly. And then new files are current files if they're not in the queue, and then you extend the queue. That's what I wanted more or less. And then you return the new files. Sure, you extended the queue, and the queue is made of all the files in the directory. Yeah, perfect. And then current files being listed here, well, we updated the queue, so now we get this, yeah, this new version. Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, some things I'm getting, like, yeah, my object-oriented programming here is not the best, but I think that this should do the trick. So now let's test it out. So let's test out. Okay, so this is working somewhat. Queue manager, print queue, scan for new files, list the queue. Beautiful. And now we need the queue to be composed only of STL files. And then if it's a folder or zip or whatever, we would like it to not be that. So we either set it so that the files in the STL files folders can only be STL. Yeah, we should restrict the queue to only STL files. So if it's a folder, we either ignore it or we fetch the STL file inside. What are we gonna do? We're gonna get all the STL. And when it's a zip file, we just ignore it. Yeah. Yeah. Add a check for folders where if the file is a folder, you only add to the queue all the STL files nested inside that folder. So that's it. Yep. That's better. I guess that's better. And the queue, yeah, update the queue, should be only STL files. Yep. List the queue. Ta-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da, delete from the queue, current folder, this, and that. Wonderful. And now we take a look, and now it's all STL files. Perfect. So now we already did the automatic scanning stuff, and now queue persistence using JSON. Well, we've saved, let's test the queue persistence by saving the queue. So we're going to say queue manager, save the queue. And now we're going to say os dot, we're going to say, okay, well, let's first, yeah, the queue is right here. And as you can see, it's a list of STL files. That's pretty cool. And we can actually do a check and see that everything is in there. Yeah, all right, this looks pretty good. All right, folks. So now that we have all of that working and it is looking nice and pretty, what we're gonna do is, I'm just doing this just for my own mental health, so I can see that everything is nicely organized in there. Okay, I think it looks good. Okay. I don't like the fact that we saved like a list. I mean, this should be what? This should be a JSON, should be a dictionary. Because like if I go to, exactly. If I go to, okay, that works. All right, that's good enough, I guess. So now basic operations, updating, listing, moving, reordering, and moving to printed. We've already done all of that. That's looking pretty nice. So now what we could do is we can test the move to printed. Let's test that out. So test move to printed. So QManager.move to printed, SCL submit file, and then we test to see. First, we test to see if this file is in there, right? Yeah, file test. So we're going to say file test is this. And then we're going to say, this is the file test. And now we're going to see if this is in the queue. So file test, no, file test in QManager queue, true. And now we're going to say QManager, move printed. And we're also, let's see, printed, STL printed dir, STL printed dir, and it's right here. And now we can say os.list dir, yeah, list dir, beautiful. And we can say now file test in os.list dir, and it says false, perfect. So now we're gonna test if when we move to printed, this says true, okay? So we're going to say, okay, QManager.move to printed file test. And now file test in the printed folder. And now it says true. And if we say file test in QManager.queue, it still says true, which is very annoying, folks. So if it says queue, it's either because was there like a, nah, that's not possible. Now it is in the queue because after I moved to printed, what did we do? We didn't update the queue. So we got to update the queue after we move. So let's say QManager dot update the queue. There we go, folks. When we update the queue, we can now see that it was correctly moved. So this is working. So now that that's working, this is pretty good. So this part is done. Changing priority, reorder priority, ta-da-da-da-da. Honestly, I wanted to do this visually. Reorder priority is about seeing the list and then saying, look, I don't want this in this position. I want this in that position. I want to print this before that, etc., etc. So the reorder priority is this function right here, which removes the file name. Okay, and then inserts priority file name. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I mean, it makes the queue, it makes it seem like the queue has this insert priority. Is that what we want to remove and then insert? Remove and then insert priority file name. Priority, I guess, would be the index. So this is a bad name for, yeah, so it's index file. Yeah. So this is the index, right? And if we remove the file from the queue, it's because now we remove it and then we're inserting. This would be like reshuffling it, right? Moving it from a certain position to another. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. So now we can see if this works. So we're going to test this function reorder priority. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say, okay, beautiful, beautiful. We're going to say QManager.reorder priority. First, we're going to list the queue, right? queue manager, list the queue. That's weird. If I go queue, so in the queue, it seems like there's nothing. When I updated the queue, what happened? I said update the queue, so it listed, and then the queue became all the files if lower ends with STL. Okay, that makes sense. And if I go there to the actual folder, STL, to print, the only STL file indeed is this pegboard storage bin. Okay, so that's correct by all means. But when we're updating the queue, we're not fetching all the STL files inside of the folders as well. So that's bad. And we're doing that in the scanning for new files, but we're not doing that in the update the queue. So we're going to do that. Include the search over all the folders as well to find all STL files available, even nested ones. All right, that's what we're going to do. Okay, that looks good. So now all files, and I don't know why this is here because it's not being used for anything. Okay, beautiful. Update the queue. Yeah, and now it's for all the files. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Okay, beautiful. Okay, that looks good. So now we can actually test this out. Yeah, that's looking good. We can save the queue. We can get the queue again, see if it's working good. It seems to be working well. We're file testing now, but with the file that is not available anymore. So let's fetch one that is available. Let's take this one that was right here. And now we're going to say, yeah, it says true. And we say that it's in the printed directory. It's not. So now we test this out, and now it's giving me an error. No such file. Okay, it's probably because this is going on, which is separated, which probably this thing is not enjoying very much. So we're gonna have to either use, status containers, probably gonna have to use something to get rid of this issue. So what do we use to get rid of this issue? I have no idea. Move to printed, file test. So file test, STL containers, So now we're getting this error probably because no such file, but that's not true. The file is in there in the to print. Yeah. Oh, or maybe it isn't because it's inside of a folder. Good point. STL files to print. Status holder, yeah. But is this thing a folder as well? It is a folder as well. So it's probably just because this thing is going on. It's just a string that the OS list here doesn't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the issue of the folder being able to move to folders that look like this. So let's go to move to printed. There we go. We're going to move to printed. And we're going to say fix it so that it works for folders with bad names like this one. And there you go. Dir name, directory, something. Okay, this should be better. So let's test it out. So now we're going to come over here. We're going to test this out. It's working. It's working. And still not working. That's very annoying. Status cell. And then printed status shows. Yeah, because we're trying to move a file, but we're moving to a folder printed, but we're moving the full path, including the nested folders. That was the issue initially. So even the thing that I had before that was simpler was correct still. So I'm gonna go back to that previous state. Yeah, so this was good. And the issue was we just want to move the file. We don't want to move the whole thing. Ah, wait, no. If we go back here, if I go back here and I go, okay. If we are moving a nested file, make sure to move only the file and not the whole path, including folders, to avoid issues in the printed folder. All right, so that's how we're going to change that. Base name, make yours, perfect. So the way that I got the solution from Cursor using Claude 3.5 Sonnet is that it just created the nested directories. Do we like this approach? I don't know, but we're gonna go with it because why not? And I'm lazy. So we're gonna use this approach and we're gonna test it out again. And now it works. And we moved it. And works, but it didn't work because now we said file testing OS list there because this is a bad check because we moved to the file in the nested folder. So this should be now check if it exists either in the printed folder or in the nested folders inside. Let's see. I think this is a little bit better. There you go. And still getting error. Oh, this is very annoying. Walk, found equal true, break, right, found, then file not found. Okay, so now this is starting to annoy me because this time I moved to printed, but the file did not exist. All right, so we're gonna add a check in the move to printed. So we're gonna say when file name does not exist in original folder, just output, just perform some error handling and return a message. Okay, so that we don't actually interrupt the execution of the code. Yeah, so we're gonna add some try and except stuff. So now when the file doesn't exist originally in the folder, we can just say, okay, then just move along, error moving file, etc. Perfect. So now we can run this and now we can go back here. We can say, okay, does that exist? Now we're gonna have to change the file we're using. So we're gonna try a different one. So we're gonna try this one. Okay, beautiful. So now it just still doesn't exist. Well, maybe this one. I mean, come on. There we go. This one exists. And now it doesn't exist on the, now we have to test in the whole test for all the files in all nested folders in the printed directory. So now we're testing for everything, right? And it doesn't exist. And now we're gonna move it and it should say true. And it still says false. Come on. Come on. We just moved it. We can test this manually to see what's going on. So now we're gonna go printed. And now if we just take the folders, we're gonna go to scatus something, right? What was the name of the original file? Scatus containers. So we're gonna go to scatus containers. And then we're gonna go containers. And there's nothing there, but there's something in. Okay, containers. Inside containers, we have this. Okay, so the files are there. So if the files are there, why is it that when we do the walk in the printed directory, this is not being found? Very annoying. STL printed, So we can just, instead of doing this, we're just gonna print the files. Beautiful. We see all of this good stuff. We see these two here. The one that we were moving is scatus large container deep STL, which is scatus large container deep STL. So it does exist, but nevertheless, it's saying that it didn't, and that it doesn't make a lot of sense. Scatus large container. If file test in files. The problem is file test is a full name. Okay, so now I got it. because the way that we're testing to check if a file that's actually a full path is in a list that contains only the first names, right? Which is a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to check if only the base name of the file exists in any files list thing. And now, and now this should be saying true now. There we go, folks. We're getting it. We're doing it. Beautiful. Okay. So now we've tested this. Now this thing is working. So it says true because I did move it. And when did I move it? I don't remember now. We moved it here, I guess. So it says true because it does exist. And then after I move it, it should say false. So it says true in the printed because I've moved it before. So we're going to have to test with a new one. Okay. It's fine. That is fine. We're going to test with a different one. Scatters large container deep, small container deep. We're going to test with this one. Scatters something, T-clip something, something. Okay? Okay. So it exists on our original folder. And now we're going to test it on the printed. This should say false now, folks. It says false. Now we're going to move it. And now it should say true here. Come on. And it says false. Oh, why? This is very annoying. Because I did not do the right check. The right check was this one. So let me just comment this. And let me do the correct check now. So now, just with this commented, when I run this, it should say true because we're doing the correct check with only the base name of the file. There we go, folks. Look at that. Beautiful. And I'm going to uncomment this. And now we have this thing working, so we can update the queue. And now we can test that the file test is no longer in the queue. Beautiful. So everything is working. And we can even check out our queue now. And we got the files there. And that's all beautiful, perfect, marvelous. Now, let's for example, I want to put this file to the end of my queue. So let's test the reorder priority method by saying file test. And I'm going to say -1, which indicates the final end of a list in Python. And now we're going to say the queue. And let's see what happens. It says list, I'll remove X not in list. That makes sense. Does that make sense? Because it's file and then the index. But the file test doesn't exist anymore because we moved it. So we got to have a new file for testing this. And the new file is going to be called this thing. So pegboard, storage bin, STL, something. So let's do that. And now let's test it out. Yes. So now if we go way down to the end, we see there was actually, it's not the end. And why is that? Because why is it that this didn't move it to -1? Because I have no idea. I have no idea why. So when I reorder the priority, we remove the file and then we insert it in the position of the index. Okay. So that I'm not 100% sure why that didn't work. So we're going to come over here and let's see, -1. No, it's still sending it to there. Very annoying. If I send to -2, and now it's like sending it here. But I wanted to send it to, I'm going to say, send the file test to the end of the queue. Yeah, it did the same thing I did before, but the last file continues to be the wrong one, which is this one. That can only be because something is not right. What is not right? Let's see, queue. We updated the queue. Yeah, why would that not be right? So we can ask. So let's see, reorder. So I'm going to say def reorder priority. And let's ask cursor. Let's ask Cloud 3.5 Sonnet actually. So Why is this not moving to the end of the queue when I run queue manager reorder priority file name -1? Why is that not happening? This issue is when it inserts item before last element, not the end. It's because the man refers to position before last. How to fix it? Index file, append file name, else as insert. Okay. Adjust to append. Okay. That's pretty cool. Okay. I like it. Yeah. So that's what we're using. And thank you very much. Oh, that was bad on me. Sorry, folks. There you go. And now this goes away. And now this comes over here. Let's just fix this. Format. Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's test it all again. We're gonna run this. Everything's working well. We're gonna save the queue. Now we're gonna check that we can restore the queue. And now we're gonna check that some element is in the queue. This one is not, but we can say, for example, I don't know, scatus large shelf.stl. That's not in the queue, but this file is in the queue, right? This thing is in the queue. There you go. And now this is in the queue, and now we're gonna test that we can move to print it. So we're gonna first test, and we see that it's not there originally, but then we move it, and now it's there. And now we update the queue, and we see that it's no longer in the files that we wanna print. We can check out the queue again, and now we can reorder the priority of this thing to go to the last element of the queue. And now, folks, victory, we have it in the last item of the queue. So I'd say that all of the things that I wanted to do, folks, are done now. We can do whatever we want. We can update, we can list, we can check it out, we can play around with stuff. So now the extra stuff is gonna be done under a CLI tool, right? Under a actual, like, simple command interface application. So we're gonna move from this Jupyter notebook to an actual application we're gonna run in the terminal. And how do we do that? Pretty simple. We're gonna do a little magic, all right, folks? So I'm gonna show you a little trick that I really like. Because, I mean, what I could do is I could copy everything manually and, you know, go through some trouble to, like, move everything to something. But the other thing that we can do, folks, is we can do this. Let me just go back a couple lines. There we go. This is not, we go back and here we are. This is our notebook. So first I'm going to go Jupyter NB convert to script, and then I'm going to say 3D printing stuff. So folks, what this does is transforms the notebook into a Python file. Okay. So now we can see that we have a Python file with all the stuff from our notebook, but now as a Python file, which is much easier to work with when we want to do some magic. So the second magic I want to do is I want to cat that Python file, and I want to pipe that to a large language model, which is going to be GPT-4o for this one. Okay. And I'm using the LLM CLI by Simon Willison. If you don't know, you should know. It's amazing. And I'm going to say, look, transform this Jupyter notebook into a CLI tool, maintain with all the functionality as shown in the notebook, and include in the same file the tests seen in the notebook as a PyTest suite, something like that, so that we have the tests, everything in the same file, so that we can always, we can separate later, so I don't have to do double pipes or create two files separately. I'll put only the Python code. All right. And now, folks, we're going to save that to 3D printing Q automation, because I have no creativity. So this is the name of the file. So now I run this, folks, and something that would have taken me a few minutes, it's going to take me, hopefully, no time at all. Cha-jan, cha-jan, magic. And let's see what happens. Beautiful, folks. We're done. So we can say to the printing Q automation. That's not. There we go, folks. And there we go, folks. Here's the file. Everything beautifully organized. Okay, PyTest does not seem to be. It also includes PyTest stuff. I mean, gorgeous. It has the tests for all the stuff, which is very nice. It seems like, okay, yeah. So it's not running. The PyTest suite is just something we're going to run on the side. So, but it would be fun to see if we can save this. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, yeah, PyTest. I'm going to save this as test 3D Q auto. And yeah, for that we need the Q manager. So Q manager 3D printing Q. And then from, no, that's wrong. From, there you go, much better. Just, I don't want to test or anything. I just wanted to make sure that, I had this. Yeah, I'm just going to import everything from that file. I don't know why this is there. And let's see if the tests run. No, because invalid decimal literal, because it's like a number. That's a rookie mistake on my end. I'm just gonna say something else. What is the name I'm gonna give? I have no idea. Must be separated by new lines or semicolons. This is not defined. Yeah, because the 3 is unacceptable. So let's just say printing Q automation. So move 3D printing Q automation to printing Q automation.py. Beautiful. And then PyTest. Why is it not running the PyTest stuff? What's going on? Okay. There you go. All right. Something should happen now. No module name PyTest. That's my bad. So we're going to test it out. This is just to make sure that we can test this and make sure it works. So it's not working. Has no attribute main. That makes sense. Why did I put this like this? And now true errors, true things fails, cat is container. Yeah, but this was how the tests were set up. Yeah, delete test from file, test delete file. Yeah, we have to actually have files that actually do the testing. Test reorder priority, that's fine. But okay, I mean, I don't really care about the test right now. This is not like a super serious automation. It's just nice to have in case I want to evolve this to something else. Next time I can just take a random file from the STL print folder. So what matters to me right now is the printing Q automation stuff, which should be somewhere here. There we go. And this is nice. So we have a CLI command. We have some arguments. Okay. So let's see what this looks like when I run it. So I can do printing Q something. And now we get our nice little commands that we have available, folks. We can delete, list, move, reorder, save, scan. So I'm going to list. So I'm going to say printing Q. I'm going to say list Q. And I need some options. Where are the options for list Q? There are no options. So it should have just run beautifully. No such command. Like this. What am I doing? Okay, that's annoying. Maybe I got it. Maybe I got the thing wrong. Okay. Oh. There you go, folks. So current queue, nothing. That's fair. But we can say scan. Nice. And now if we say lists, that's annoying. So scanning, because when we scan, we have to save. Okay, so this is getting a bit out of hand. All right, so we have the CLI working. It has the qualities and characteristics that we would want, but we gotta start from somewhere, right? So when we say queue for the first time, we should run like an update queue first so that we kind of check in the files and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna say, we're gonna say self.update the queue. And obviously this should not be here. And let's test this again. Printing queue. And now we're gonna say list queue. There you go, folks. Now we got our automations working. And now we can, manage all the printing every time that we, update something, etc. Everything's gonna be nicely organized. I think that's pretty cool. I think for now, folks, I think for now, this is it. I think I want to play around with more automations like this and evolve it. But, this is how you get something like this working. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Cheers.